That grinder's getting pretty hot. I don't want to burn it up, so switch to something else here. Metal wire from cut brush. That cut brush, stainless cut brush, gets a lot of it off, but it doesn't leave the metal really smooth and flat. So I'll go in there with this and just kind of flatten it on out a little bit. Man, I have run out of gas. Let me tell you, I am exhausted already. So about 4:30 p.m. I kind of stopped to let all my electric, the tools I'm using, cool down because they're pretty hot from constant use. Anyway, now I'm finding myself a little bit harder to get back to work because I'm kind of tired already and slowed down. But I'm going to go ahead and continue on, getting ready to try to get a second wind, I guess, and see what I can get done. But anyway, the frame, it's cleaning up pretty nice, as you can see. There's a lot of areas that I'm having trouble getting to, and I'll have to, you know, blast it with my sandblaster. But I mean, for the most part, it's cleaning up pretty nice to clean metal. It's not perfect as it would be if it was all sandblasted, but it'll be good enough. I did think of something. I'm going to be putting in new brake lines and a new fuel line on the frame, and I never did like the factory frame brake line and fuel line attaching clips. They basically, you know, snap into the frame and your lines go in there together. With me changing this out to a dual reservoir master cylinder and also using a G-body rear end, the brake line stuff for a G-body is on the driver's side going along the frame rail. On these Tri-5s, they go down this side. So what I've decided is I'm going to run the brake line down the driver's side and the fuel line down the passenger side where it's supposed to be. But anyway, so I needed some clamps. So what I did was I dug out my tote full of loom clamps here, or line clamps, whatever you want to call them. But you know, I have all kinds of different ones in here, plastic and metal, and the metal ones with the rubber on there, which to me, when these are used on a car, this is just my personal opinion, that they look more like house stuff, like to build houses and electrical and that type of stuff, than they do automotive. And the only reason is because of the rubber strip on there that you can pull off. So what I ended up doing was I pulled off the rubber on them, and that's pretty much, they kind of look like a factory style brake line clamp at that point. Now I've got a whole bunch of extra ARP black oxide bolts here from when I worked on my Cutlass Salon. These are the bolts that I used on the engine and the engine compartment and all that stuff on it, because it's black, because I was going for an OEM style look. So I had a lot of stuff left over, and I ended up with quite a few of these fine thread ARP hex head bolts here. So since they're fine thread, I'll be able to drill and tap the frame and, you know, bolt them on and use these ARP bolts. That's what I'm going to do. But I'm going to run a 5/16 fuel line on this car, even though it needs, probably would be better to run a 3/8 fuel line, but I've mentioned this before. I'm going to run 5/16 because I'm running a 305. But the other thing about it is the fuel pump that I have for this is the 1/4 inch fitting 7 psi Holley chrome fuel pump. It has 1/4 inch fitting, so I can't get a 3/8 fitting in it. So I'm just going to do it all 5/16. And also my brand new fuel sending unit that I got from my cousin is a 5/16. So I'm just going to use a 5/16 fuel system because, you know, I'm not going to be holding the pedal to the floor for a half mile or nothing. So I think it'll be just fine. But anyway, so after I pulled the rubber off of the clamps there, to me they look a little bit more OEM looking. So basically when I bend up new straight lines for a fuel line, I'll just drill and tap the frame to use those clamps there. I think they'll be pretty awesome. Now when it came to the 3/16 brake lines, that's where it kind of got tough, because none of these actually worked. Even the smallest ones I have are too big. It's actually these. These are pretty small with the rubber on there, but when you clamp it around that 3/16 brake line, it's still too loose. So I didn't have anything in here that would work on that small of a brake line. So what I did was I went out to my Buick Century, and I actually had a few of these clamps in here from G-bodies from the past. But anyway, these are for a 3/16 brake line. They're just off a G-body. They're a bigger clamp than what's going to be on the fuel line, but since they're on opposite sides of the frame, I don't really care. But the whole inside diameter, I believe, is probably 5/16. So I ended up having a package, 2 packages, I think, or 2.5 packages of ARP of the, I think these are actually 8. These are metric. They're 8 by 20. No, I don't have my glasses on, dang it. 6 by 20. I'm not even looking at the right ones here. This is them. M8 by 20. So 6 by 20 and 8 by 20 metrics is what I'm going to be using for the frame. I'll just drill and tap, and I'm going to be using the bigger ARPs, the 820s, in the G-body clamps, but they snug down on that 3/16 line really nice. So anyway, that is how I'm going to attach all the lines to the chassis and not have to spend any money. All that stuff's already here. How cool is that? The other cool part about it is the brake lines that was on this rear end, the factory G-body rear end brake lines. I'm thinking I'll still be able to use them because, you know, the part for the rubber hose to go to is on the driver's side, whereas 55 is on passenger side. It actually goes in right here on the frame. So I think that's what I'm going to attempt to do, is use the factory original G-body ones on the rear end, and that way I don't have to bend up brake lines and, you know, probably have to go buy a few sticks. But I'm not there yet, so who knows? I may end up having to. I'm going to try to make the factory 55 rear rubber brake hose work with the G-body rear, so that's going to be a problem. I have a lot of miscellaneous fittings and T-fittings and all kinds of stuff for brake line stuff, so I may have enough stuff to make it work. But the factory junction block on a G-body is made onto the rear hose. On a 55, they are not. So I want to try to use that factory rear rubber brake hose for the 55 because it's longer. There's a lot more suspension travel in this car. So I want to use a factory 55 rear rubber brake hose, which I already bought brand new when I did all the brakes on this four-door when I first drug it in. So I basically want to reuse that brand new line I bought, or hose, whatever you want to call it. But it's coming along. It is slow, but I mean, in a way it's kind of fast, but I'm just getting these you know, tools really hot using them so much, and I don't want to burn them up, so I've been giving them time to cool down. But I'll eventually get it one of these days. I'd like to paint this thing tomorrow, but it's kind of up in the air at that point. I don't know if I'll get it done or not, but we'll just have to wait and see. But anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and put all these videos together and go ahead and post them. I think that's enough for one, because it kind of gives you an idea of, you know, the cleaning process if you're going to do one in the driveway like I am on the cheap. Thanks for watching.